It's Far Cry right here on your Classic Metal Show with Too Hot to Hold, and the name of that CD is called Optimism, and you can check Far Cry out at the Melodic Rock Fest coming up in May in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Now, a guy who's out there promoting a good cause for the Kitten Crazy Incorporated out in Medina, Ohio for the Forever Home Fundraiser 2018 is our good friend Joe Kleon. What's going on, Joe?
How you guys doing?
We're doing. I see that you're logged into the chat room and hanging out with the riffraff.
Chat room is always fun.
Of course it is.
Nice.
Well, Joe, you're a very active guy in the Akron, Cleveland area with your photography and getting involved with various functions, whether it's a showcase or like one of these things with these fundraisers. So tell us what's going on here.
Well, I've been a metal guy my whole life, but I've also been a huge cat lover. And since I do so much photography and have shot 1,000 concerts in the last 15 years, I decided to start volunteering for a cat shelter in Medina about 4 years ago. And I go in every couple of weeks. I take pictures of all the cats they have that are available for adoption. And they tell me that it's really helped facilitate their adoptions. They recently celebrated their 5,000th adoption. And place, once again, is called Kitten Crazy. It's a great place. It's a free roaming shelter, nonprofit, no kill. And it's just a really incredible place. So a couple years ago, I put some concert photos up on eBay and auctioned them off and raised about $1,300 for the shelter. And I did the same thing last year with 18 photos. And this year I decided to take it up a notch. I have 60 photos available this year, and they're all currently on eBay. And 100% of all the proceeds goes to benefit the cat shelter.
Well, very good. Well, Joe, I got to ask you something, and I'm not asking this out of ignorance or just being a wise ass, but, one thing that I've often wondered, and maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't, I see these commercials for shelters and adopt a pet and so on and so forth, and you see a lot of these pets that are abused or whatnot, and what I don't understand, and maybe you know the psychology behind it, I don't understand somebody who owns a pet just to abuse it to where, some organization rescues the pet and this pet is in such bad condition that it takes weeks or even months of rehabilitation to get them healthy again. What do you know about that mindset of owning an animal, whether it's a cat or a dog or anything else, and abusing it to the point of torture?
Well, why stop with just cats and dogs? I mean, there's so many psychos out there. Think about people that just have kids in order to abuse them.
True. So do you think it's just a breeding ground? It's like the training for worse?
I think there's just so many psychos out there who just take perverse pleasure in abusing any living thing.
Sure.
I don't think it's a specific mindset for just a cat or just a dog. I think there's just a lot of crazy bastards out there.
Oh, you're definitely right on that.
And, I see a lot of those. I see a lot of those cases that come into Kitten Crazy from time to time. And the coolest thing is to see an animal come in that's scared, hidden, been abused, has injuries, whatever, hiding in the corner. I could barely get him out from his hiding spot to take a picture of him, to try and get him adopted. And, the staff there takes extra care of those animals and spends lots of time with them. I'll come back in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks to do another set of photos, and it's a totally different cat. Comes right up to you, is purring, is playing, so they take extra care to help rehabilitate those type of animals.
Sure. Now, what kind of timeline, if there is such a thing as a timeline, does it take to rehabilitate, an animal that has been, I get it. It obviously depends on the injuries or the illness that they have or whatnot, but just to get the behavior to a place where somebody could adopt it and have it as a safe pet, are you talking weeks or months or years or what?
It depends on the animal. I mean, it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. The cat that turned me into a cat person was a cat that my wife had when we were still dating before we were married, and we moved in together. And that cat freaking hated me. It hissed at me every day for 4 months, every time I was in the same room with it. Wow. And I thought it was going to be a wedge in our relationship. I'm like, oh my God, this fucking cat hates me. And, by the time it died at age 12, it was sitting on my lap for 3 hours a day, eating treats out of my hand. So it depends on the animal and the amount of time and the amount of, the care that's given to it, I think.
Sure. Now, what made you, obviously you take photos and you're well regarded, locally anyway, and starting to get there nationally, if nothing else by the pirates that'll steal your shit and sell it for you, or against you, I guess. But what possessed you to choose like this charity versus I don't know, cancer or there's a million charities out there, I guess.
Well, I don't think they would want me to go to the hospital and take pictures of cancer kids.
You never know.
Like I said, I've always been a huge cat person, and I just decided I wanted to volunteer at an animal shelter, and cleaning cages didn't really sound like much fun, so
sure.
I figured I have this talent as a photographer, so I'll reach out to a couple of shelters and see if anybody's interested. And it turns out Kitten Crazy is friends and fans of the band Wish You Were Here, who is a Pink Floyd tribute band that I work with, I've worked with for 20 years in Cleveland. And so when I contacted them, they're like, oh, yeah, we go to Wish You Were Here shows all the time. So it was kind of a perfect fit. And 4 years later, I've probably photographed about 2,000 cats.
Nice. Now, Joe, let's talk photography a little bit. Let's talk about music. No secret, this week specifically, two major acts announced that they're touring for the last time, and that being obviously Slayer, which is important to this show, and then not important to this show, but a major talent in his own right, Elton John, both who I believe you've photographed before. For you, is it important? Is it an important achievement, or will it be an important achievement for you to be a photographer on major events like the last time that they roll through Cleveland?
I love doing that. And, anytime anybody that's getting up there in age and is nearing the end of their career, every time they come to town, I at most always try to shoot them, because I'm thinking this could be their last time, even if it's not their farewell tour. I mean, think about how many people are dying in the rock and music world these days. So, but yeah, to do any of those kind of farewell tours, of course, demand for those photos is always a lot better, since there's so much publicity surrounding the farewell aspect of it.
Sure, but I gotta imagine at this point for you, you're not gonna have any problem getting photography rights to those shows, are you?
I've shot Slayer and Elton John both twice in the past, so probably not.
Yeah.
I just posted a Slayer pic in the chat room.
Oh, nice. Let's see. Well, dude, with that, I'm going to assume that since you'll be at those shows and I don't want to get into a whole business thing, but is there a different way that you would end up marketing, photos from the last Cleveland Slayer show or the last Elton John show in Cleveland? Is there a marketing platform that would be, of bigger use for you?
I don't know if there's a different way that I would market them. I mean, if someone's approaching me, either be an individual that wants to buy a print or a magazine that needs a photo or a website, if they want a Slayer photo, they'll approach me and ask for it, and I'll tell them that I have the final tour or whatever. But I don't really think it changes the way I go about marketing or putting my stuff out there just because it's the final tour. I mean, of course, if I post it on social media, I'll include those facts, but that's really about it.
Excellent. Well, Joe, I wanted to ask you, and this is kind of veering away a little bit from this, but we'll come back to this. But you've been listening to the CMS, and you've been a staple in Cleveland, Akron, Canton radio for a lot of years. Like Chris and I, both Chris and I have been doing this show for 22 years. And, maybe some people don't realize that your talents not only lie within the photography field, but, you hosted radio as well. Just out of curiosity, have you had what would you say your most worst experience in being a radio host has ever been?
My worst radio experience ever was working for a station called Q92 in Canton. It was the last radio job I had. I was the promotions director there, and I also was part of the morning show. The morning show was great. Loved the morning show. That was the only good thing about that station, but the owner was one of the worst people I've ever known in my entire life, and that job was horrific. And that was when I just started to get into photography. And so I quit that job and kind of took over photography almost full-time. I still do radio now for an independent music distributor. I do radio shows of all indie artists.
Sure. So what was so horrific about the owner?
He would put numbers on the light bulbs in the on-air studio, and then when a bulb burned out and you took it back to him and wanted a replacement, he would check the date on the number, and if he thought it, was too soon, he would accuse people of stealing light bulbs, and he wouldn't give you one. He would lock up the toilet paper because he was convinced people were stealing toilet paper. So on the weekends, you had to use coffee filters to wipe your ass.
Wow.
I could go on for hours about that guy.
Well, was it because he was just a cheap person, or was the station losing money, or what was the deal?
No, the station wasn't losing money. He is just one of the most horrific, morally bankrupt people I've ever known.
So what was the gist of the morning show? I mean, what was the dynamic of the morning show? What would be the attraction for anyone to listen to the show? I mean, did you guys have a certain chemistry, or what separated you from any other morning show out there that you would say?
The owner, one thing that he did is he didn't really meddle in the morning show that much, and we were allowed to do pretty much what we wanted, and there was a really good chemistry. There was some books where we had a 30 share, and the number 2 station had like a 12. Wow. So they really kicked ass, and of course the owner was such a jackass that the morning show ended up leaving, and they went on and were doing a internet show after they left, and the owner sued them, saying that they violated his non-compete contract by being on the internet, because the internet could be heard within 60 miles of the radio station. And it went all the way through court, and the owner lost, and now that's considered a precedent-setting case involving, non-compete contracts.
Nice. Dude, with that, that was the show with Pat, right? Pat DeLuca?
With Pat DeLuca, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll answer Neely's question a little bit where he was going with this, just because I wanna make a point about it. That show, I mean, it was a traditional morning. I don't want to say traditional, like yuck, and here's my horn that I'm honking type of a thing. But it was a somewhat traditional show. You did the things that you needed to do, the weather, the news, the things. But then you had conversation that was sometimes funny, sometimes serious. It was a traditional type of a show. With that said,
it was traditional in that sense, and then we also, went off the rails a lot of times.
Sure.
Got in a lot of trouble one time for going down to the Tuscarawas County Fair interviewing the carnies, and 90% of them had spent more than 10 years of their life in jail.
Nice.
See, but what I'm curious about, he was okay with that kind of stuff, but he wasn't okay with fucking somebody stealing 50 cents worth of toilet paper?
I can't explain a psychopath.
Did he abuse animals?
I don't know. I think he had a dog once, and the first day it ran away, but I'm not sure about that.
What did his wife look like?
Vinnie Vincent comes to mind.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. Awesome, man. Well, dude, you mentioned the show that you're doing now. Why don't you give that a plug, too? Because there's a lot of cool music that people can hear. Not only metal, but, a lot of good stuff that is being out there. And just like we do here, it's all kind of independent over there. So, it's a good chance to hear stuff that you're not going to get beaten down with on like traditional radio.
It's a great platform. It's called Songcast. Songcast.com is the website. There's an app for your phone, and you can also stream it online. It's free to stream. It's commercial free. There's 17 or 18 different genres. Rock and metal, of course, are two of them. And I've done around 2,400 shows for them that are all available online. They're called Spotlight, and they're just artist showcase shows from around the world. I mean, countries I haven't even heard of, and great metal stuff. And we have a lot of former, pretty major metal guys like Leif Edling from Candlemass. We've got a bunch of his bands. He has a label over in Sweden. We distribute his stuff. Jimmy Jameson, we distribute his stuff. So we have a lot of well-known artists, but, not the upper echelon, of course. But the majority of it is just indie artists from around the world. They're making music for the right reasons. And if you want to be turned on to new music, there's just a treasure trove of stuff that you can listen to. It's a great platform. I love working there.
Excellent.
No doubt. And Jimmy Jameson's got to be good because you don't have to send him any kind of royalties now.
Well, I believe the royalties go to his estate now.
Go to a hole in the ground.
Right. All right, Joe.
He actually had some solo albums that were pretty decent.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was good in Survivor too. The guy had a good voice. Unfortunately, he had a good heroin habit too. So
we also distribute that Cobra album. Remember that album?
Oh yeah.
That album's great.
Yeah, I believe I actually have that.
That's a great 80s hard rock album. It really is.
All right, Joe. Well, why don't you give the charity another plug and where people can find your website and how they can buy stuff and support a good cause?
Well, I appreciate once again you guys having me on. Thank you so much. And the benefit is for Kitten Crazy, no-kill cat rescue in Medina, Ohio. I've got 60 concert photos up on eBay. Everyone from Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Slash, Roger Waters, Rush, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, Chris Cornell, Aerosmith, Paul McCartney. If you have some kids in the family, I got Taylor Swift and Bieber. A big variety of stuff. They're 11 by 14 concert photos. The auctions go for about 8 more days, and all the benefits benefit the cat shelter, kittencrazy.org. And Kitten Crazy is with 2 Ks. Kitten and Crazy both have a K. So it's kittencrazy.org. And I'll post a link in the chat room as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, if you're a big animal lover, or even if you're not, go over there and support a good cause and get some cool rock and roll photography stuff to hang in your bedroom or your studio or wherever it is that you have your memorabilia.
Chris has a giant Roger Waters looming in his living room.
He does. He's happy about that too.
I love that. It's actually making right now it's not hanging, but it is because I'm getting a new couch this week. But once I get the new couch, it is going to be featured on that big wall right in my living room. Like everybody that walks in the door will see it. I love that picture. It's awesome.
That same photo is one of the auctions that is going on right now from that last Roger Waters tour.
What the fuck, Joe? I thought I bought an exclusive.
Well, buy it again for your bedroom.
Okay, thanks.
I'll Scotch guard it for you.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
All right, Joe. Well, you're welcome on the show anytime, as you're well aware. And anyway, go out and support a good cause. And Joe, I'm going to close this interview out with another Cleveland favorite, the band Breaker. And we're going to
love Breaker.
Yeah, we're gonna play probably one of their most popular tunes here with "Get Tough." So go over to Kitten Crazy over at Kitten Crazy. That's with a K, kittencrazy.org, and go support the charity and help them raise some money for a good cause. So here it is. This is Cleveland's own Breaker from their "Get Tough" release, and this is the title track. So thanks again, Joe. And
thanks again, you guys. I love you guys. Love the show. Thank you.
All right, and here it is. It's "Get Tough" exclusively here
on your classic metal show.